So it's 7 months and 2,000 miles since I picked up my orange Honda CL500, and in that time I think I've got to know it quite well. So in this video I'll be talking about the 7 attributes or 7 questions about the motorbike. So the performance, the handling, the comfort, the design, the features, and who might buy it and why you might buy a Honda CL500. But first of all, to the bloke that came up to me and said, that's a bit of a minger. Well, do you know what? It's not, because actually beauty is what you find from within. It's not what it externally looks like. And the CL500, it has a little heart of gold. Okay, so first of all, performance. Now I suppose the first thing to say is you've kind of got to set your expectations. I mean, after all, it's only a 471cc engine that puts out about 46 horsepower. But having said that, what I found with the engine and the throttle response is it's a kind of a nice combination of low down torque, but also with the ability to chase a few revs and get a little bit more power out at the top end. And I quite actually like that combination, you know. So although I haven't got a rev counter, it feels as though between 3,500 revs and maybe 6,000 revs, there's quite a bit of torque in the engine. So in the first 4 gears, you know, you can exploit that torque for overtakes. Any higher gears, and you probably want to stamp it down the little box and like give it some, but you know, that's okay. And as I say, at the top end, you know, above 6,000 revs, and it feels as though it kind of runs out of puff at about 9,500 revs, and this is just my seat of the pants impressions. Although it does run out of puff at 9,500 revs, it's kind of worth going up there because there is another tiny little kick of power once it really starts spinning. And personally, I really enjoy that in a motorbike engine. It feels as though I'm using it. You know, it's not just about, you know, something that makes all its power below 6,000 revs, you know, like a lazy high torque engine. Because all that ever feels to me is like you're just forever short shifting, and short shifting is a bit dull. I want to be able to chase the power and feel as though I'm working an engine. And with the CB500, you certainly do have to do that. But it's also fun at the same time, and as I say, there's enough kind of low down so that when you don't feel like chasing the revs, you don't necessarily have to. But you know, it's an engaging little power plant. You know, it's enjoyable, and from a top speed perspective, it cruises easily an indicated 80 miles an hour with perhaps another 10 to 15 miles an hour in hand. So I mean, what more could you want from a little engine like this? Okay, so next up, the handling is indescribably pleasant. Now, is that a stunning indictment or not? And what do I mean by pleasant? Well, what I mean by pleasant is that in pretty much all road conditions, you know what the handling is doing, it's comfortable, it's neutral, and also it remains composed in pretty much all situations. You know, you could be going fast down a straight, you could be going fast around a sweeping bend, or you could just be snotting around, you know, little bumpy B roads and things and back roads, or you could be whizzing around town. The handling is completely dependable, completely reliable, and completely pleasant. Now, the suspension is a little bit soft, perhaps, but again, it never really gets out of shape, you know, unless you really go into the extreme, which on a bike like this, you know, is not really what it's designed for. Now, with the light weight of the bike and the high handlebars, you've got something which is very, very flickable in pretty much all conditions. It's great. And I suppose the ultimate accolade I can give the handling is that it's in perfect equilibrium with the performance of the engine. So the engine doesn't overwhelm the handling, and neither is the handling so totally brilliant that you actually can't exploit it because the performance isn't there. So yeah, it's in perfect equilibrium, and you could probably use that word to describe all of the bike really, whether it's the brakes, the handling or the engine. So yes, I suppose to sum up then, the handling is very, very pleasant, as I said before, but it's also got a perfect balance in all senses of the word. Okay, let's talk about roads. Now, the kind of road that the CL500 excels at is this kind of road. So small, narrow, bumpy, it's full of gravel and mud, and even better, in some places, it's got grass growing in the middle of it. So if you ride the CL500 here, I guarantee you're going to have an absolute blast. And you can thrash it, you can nail it, you can bump around, and you're going to have a whole load of fun. Okay, well let's talk about the features then, which actually will be a very short conversation because it hasn't really got very many, to be honest. So we've got ABS front and rear. The ABS is non-switchable. We've got LED lighting front and rear, and also LED indicators. And these are the indicators that stay on all of the time. What else have we got? Not very much, really. Struggling here now. Got some fork gaiters, always a good thing. And that's about it in terms of the standard features. I put a rack on it, aftermarket rack, 65 quid from Amazon. Fits quite well actually, and it's quite nice and low to the backlight. And rather excitingly, I've also fitted a mud flap. Now, who doesn't love a good mud flap? Now, I possibly should have spent an extra 35p and got the one with the vintage Honda logo in it, but I was a cheapskate and I didn't. Still, it's a good place to put my Manchester 17 sticker on there. So yeah, that's it for the features. Next up, the design. So let's talk about the design. And have you noticed everyone seems to be a design expert these days? And most design conversations, particularly around motorbikes, tend to focus on the aesthetics, when in actual fact there are 10 principles to good design, which I can't remember at the moment, but they were pulled together by a German guy that used to work for Braun. And in terms of the design principles that I think the CL500 does meet, and I'll refer to my piece of paper, I would say the CL500 is useful, it's honest, it's long lasting, and it's understandable. And bad design prevents us from getting the most out of the product. And here's Graham again. So just to reiterate, bad design prevents us from getting the most out of the product. And given my time on the CL500 and the last few thousand miles, I would say the design of it allows me to extract the maximum from the bike. So using the 10 design principles, I would say that the Honda CL500 is a very well designed bike. Okay, so let's talk about comfort. And first of all, very low seat height. So I'm 5'10" with a 32-inch inside leg. And as you can see, very, very easy for me to flat foot on the ground. And even though this is my kind of dodgy leg, the rider triangle is pretty relaxed. That's one of the reasons why I bought it. But pretty relaxed. No issues getting my feet onto the pegs, and you're at a nice kind of neutral angle. Handlebars are very, very tall, or quite tall, but they have a nice sweep coming towards you, so you're not leaning forward or anything. You're relatively upright, nice relaxed riding position. And even better, the sweep of the handlebars means that your hands and your wrists are not at a funny angle, which is good. So overall riding position and comfort, fabulous. I would say 8 out of 10. And the reason why it doesn't get 10 out of 10 is because the seat is a little bit thin, noting that this is slightly taller seat. So just bear that in mind if you do go and sit on one and it's got the black seat on it. That's a little bit lower, so it may make the rider triangle a little bit different. But yeah, overall comfort, such a simple, great, standard, comfortable riding position. Obviously you got no weather protection and stuff, so at high speed, like above 70, you do get a bit of wind blast, but hey, that's to be expected. It's a bike with no fairing. So yeah, all in all, I do like the comfort. Comfort is good. It gets a big thumbs up from me. Why should you buy a CL500? Well, maybe you're just looking for a little bit of simple, unpretentious fun, and you're looking to extract the absolute maximum that you can out of the bike. And I assure you, even an average rider, and I'm an average rider, even an average rider can pretty much take this and exploit the bike to its absolute maximum. Now previously, I've owned things like 160 horsepower B-Kings, an absolute phenomenal machine. But could I exploit it? Could I actually use it properly on the open road? No, of course not. It used to tear my head off. But still a great bike to ride. I'm not knocking owning powerful bikes, because powerful bikes are just brilliant. But if you've kind of come to that stage of your motorcycling career, as it were, that maybe you just want to go back to basics, you want to be able to exploit a bike pretty much fully. You want to have a load of fun and you're tired of whizzing around super fast on A roads and on sweeping bends and stuff, then the CL500 is exactly that right bike for you. Now, in terms of who the bike is for, obviously if you want to do those things, it's definitely for you, but I'm not going to use the tired old trope of it's a beginner's bike. Now, of course, Honda designed it so that it would fit within the A2 license structure that we have in Europe and in the UK, but I'm going to keep it simple. I think this bike is for anybody that loves riding, and it's for anybody that loves bikes. Yeah, it might not be a looker, but I tell you what, it is an awful lot of fun, and there's so much good stuff to be done with it. You know, when you're wringing its neck, it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I'll leave it on that note. The CL500 is for anybody who likes riding and likes riding bikes. That's what it is. It's simple, easy to use, and just generally fabulous. Okay, so finally, should I compare the Honda CL500 to a summer's day, or should I compare it to a type of biscuit? Well, in a break from the norm, I'm going to compare it to a biscuit and cake hybrid. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate as to what's a cake and what's a biscuit, because that can be very, very divisive. So I'm going to compare the Honda CL500 to a Tunnux tea cake. Now, before I explain why, it's probably worth explaining to our American friends what a Tunnux tea cake is. Well, I suppose the nearest equivalent to an American delicacy is probably a Twinkie. Now, a Tunnux tea cake is a bit different to a Twinkie, but the one thing that they have in common is that there is absolutely no nutritional value in either. However, why am I going to compare the CL500 to a Tunnux tea cake? Well, underneath that seemingly mundane carapace and exterior shell, what have you got inside? Well, you've got something soft, you've got something sweet, and you've got something gooey and kind of delightful in a sort of guilty kind of way. So that's why I think the Honda CL500 can be compared to a Tunnux tea cake. Look at that. Yeah, absolutely delicious, that. What can I say? Soft and gooey. Right, I know I shouldn't speak when my mouth's full, but that's it. Tunnux tea cake, Honda CL500, beautiful countryside. What more could a person want? Right, I'm going to go back home now and floss my teeth, so cheery bye. Tell you what, I'm going to go on the bike and not walk. I think you'll enjoy this bike. It's pretty good, and just don't worry about what people say about it, because they don't know what they're talking about. It's a nice bike. Do you like my mud flap? I've got a mud flap on it now. It's not doing anything, but I've got a mud flap on it. I mean, you've got to have a mud flap on it, haven't you? What I would like to say is that I have been sort of tongue-in-cheek, disingenuously taking the rip out of the bike for how it looks, but I stand by my first impression. I actually really like the way that it looks. I don't think it's ugly at all. Yes, it's a little bit idiosyncratic. Yes, it's got a bit of the post-industrial zeitgeist about it, maybe something to do with, 1950s East Germany, and it's got a bit of Stasi-esque design. But you know what? I quite like it. I don't think it's ugly. Sure, it doesn't follow the classic profile of your Bonnevilles and your Interceptors and all that kind of good stuff. And as much as I like those, at least this, as I said before, this stands out. So yeah, I genuinely do like the looks. So if you've got one and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, that's a Minger," ignore them, walk away from them. They're not worth listening to. And on that note, goodbye. Oh, One more thing, and I promise this is it. I just want to say a big thank you to Mike Shaw and Rick Stewart from the Manchester 17 Motorcycle Club, which I was a member of many years ago. I had some great times. So yes, Mike and Rick organised a big goodie bag to be sent over to me last year, and I got a great cap, great baseball cap, loads of stickers. Everybody loves stickers. Couple of beer mats, and 2 Manchester 17 branded pens, which didn't work. I got covered in ink, but anyway, you can't quibble, can you? So if you're in the Manchester or Stockport area and you're into trials, motocross, trail riding, enduro, road riding, maybe even a bit of road racing, check out the Manchester 17 Motorcycle Club. Really good club, organised lots of different events and well worth a visit. One thing I would say though is if that you do go to the club nights, you've got to get used to Robinson's Bitter, which can be a little bit sketchy. So my recommendation, or rather my 2 tips if you are faced with a pint of Robinson's beer. First of all, get a bag of extremely strong salt and vinegar crisps and or dry roasted peanuts, preferably both, you know, just to kind of give you a bit of nice aftertaste. And the other thing is, Robinson's Bitter is better the further you get away from the brewery. You know, and that could just be a matter of feet. So my 2 tips about Robinson's Bitter. Hello to everybody at the Manchester 17 Motorcycle Club. Thanks again to Mike and Rick, and maybe I'll see you soon. Cheery bye. Cool, eh? What a dick.